This is my portable coffee setup, and it's very specific to my use cases, but I wanted to share and just show you guys and give you guys an idea. This is kind of a 1.0 version of all of this, and behind me is my 2024 Lotus Emira, and I will go over the exact setup on how I'm powering everything, but pretty much the idea was to be able to bring a coffee setup around in this car, and this car has some very specific restrictions with what you can put in the trunk because of the size, but also the weight, and also be able to power a coffee station, in this case a pour over station, for a fair bit of time. So I just wanted to show you guys what that is. So there are a variety of ways to power coffee related things, to run power, like, for camping or in RVs and whatnot. And what I opted for is to just go for a very big portable power station. The thing is, with the Emira, for those of you who are Emira owners, you will notice that it is a 50 kilogram weight limit. So the types of batteries you can fit in the back of here, you're limited based on space and also weight. So the specific battery I went with is the Anker Solix F2000. This is about 1,000 watt hour battery that can output up to 2,400 watts. And for anything in terms of coffee brewing, things like kettles, even espresso machines, maybe we'll do espresso at a later date, the maximum you're going to draw is probably around 1,500 watts. And there's a specific port on here that lets you get surge power, and you can do 2,400 watts. Now, when you look at the battery ratings for all of this stuff, really what you're doing is you're boiling water. And after you start boiling the water and you start getting things going, your power usage is actually pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an example. I have a kettle here, and I have the Solix over here, and I'm running the cables into here. I've opted to use a coffee grinder like this, but I don't need to use such a large coffee grinder. I could use any other coffee grinder. I could use a little small hand grinder as well. And then I've also picked this, just a basic camping table. I'm not sitting in a camping chair, but you get the idea. Is you can fit a camping table, all of your equipment, the battery, and a chair, and camping chairs actually, depending on how big you are, I guess. You could fit all of that in here and still be under 100 pounds because the Anker battery in this case, and some of these batteries in this 1,000 watt hour world, are only around 30-ish pounds. I was doing some research. The beefier ones are around 50 to 70 pounds, and when you put a bunch of stuff with the chairs and the coffee equipment and all of that, you're kind of pushing the weight limit, or we'll just follow whatever Lotus is saying here. And on the Anker Solix, there's actually an app, and it will also display the watt hour usage, but pretty much you could run this full boiling for about an hour, and that is at peak power. The thing is in practice, when you're actually using this, you'll find out that these pour-over kettles, especially if you're into coffee and you're into brewing coffee, your temperature is actually going to end up stabilizing. So I have the Solix C1000. When it's drawing the full power, my usage is around an hour. Right now, I have a 73% on the battery, and the kettle is at full 100 Celsius. It is just kind of stabilizing in terms of temperature, and that also stabilizes kind of this power draw. So I'm able to just run this for 2.5 hours. Actually, now it's going up 3 hours, where the temperature is just pure stable. Keep a kettle at boiling, which is very nice. And when it heats up, depending on what kettle you're using, that's when you're going to get the power increase. And you'll see the numbers always drop and fluctuate. But I haven't really stressed this yet, but it seems like I can get about 2 to 3 hours of just usage of, boiling water. And you're not always constantly heating up water all the time. I do have a beefier coffee grinder here with me today, and I'll run that, but because you have all these different ports on here, you can charge your phone, you can boil water, you can run an espresso machine, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna brew a little cup of pour over. So the idea as to why I'm doing this is because, if you go to the car meets, you go and do stuff, cars and coffee, right? We can elevate cars and coffee. That is how it is. And, as a coffee guy, it's pretty cool. So here I'm going to run this coffee grinder, pour the beans in, and the power usage for this, you'll see the real-time power usage when you connect your phone to the battery bank. I think most of these power stations, battery banks, all have some sort of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connection. See here, it's 120 watts. You'll always just see kind of fluctuations for battery banks, but I just don't envision brewing coffee for more than like 3 hours, especially out of the back of an Emira. You know, kind of the idea is to like be able to go around and set up anywhere and just brew coffee out the back of your car. And you can do that when you're running everything through electric setup. Here is exactly what we're doing. I am not up in the mountains, I'm just in my garage. This is at 100 Celsius, and I'm going to basically just brew some pour over. These kettles can draw, you know, 1,200 to 1,400 watts. You can power an espresso machine, and the same kind of thing is with your espresso machine, it's not gonna always draw the maximum power all the time. I'm just gonna take this off and let this kettle cool down a little, and I'll just read out some numbers as to like, you know, how much it's drawing. But if I have nothing plugged into here, it says I can run this for like an entire day, right? 17 days. The numbers, it kind of does this real-time calculation, which is fun. But pretty much all of these things can fit inside of the trunk of the Emira and also in the back part behind the seats. So I can pretty much take a coffee setup anywhere that I want. There are espresso machines that can fit in the back here, like smaller espresso machines and all of that. But currently I really like pour over, so I'm brewing pour over. And again, this was kind of very specific to my use case where I wanted to be able to brew coffee with my Emira and go and hang out with all the Lotus guys and all of that with this car. If you're using any other vehicle, you totally can get a larger battery and you probably could fit things a little easier, but this is kind of just specific to my use case, as I mentioned before. There also is space in the front up there if you want to bring extra water and whatnot, but you know, the setup will evolve over time. So I was playing around with this earlier, but I started with about 74%. I'm at 71%. Draws about 1,200 watts whenever I kind of let the kettle really cool down, and then I go and reheat it. But generally speaking, a lot of the pour-over kettles today and espresso machines today, they do a really great job at maintaining temperature. But the nice thing about all of this, if you're into this coffee stuff, you know, we're not using any sort of butane, we're not using any sort of gas setup, right? These are the things that can, if you are a true coffee connoisseur, you care about, you know, all of those aromatics and like, how does the coffee smell and whatnot. And you can't really experience that if you have a smelly gas setup. And I also think this is a lot more efficient and a lot easier. It's like, you know, I can power a very premium coffee grinder. I can do a lot more stuff. There's a lot more flexibility with the battery bank here. So this kettle, you know, it'll just heat up. The kettles are very smart today. And yeah, it's pretty easy. But there you go. Brewed my cup of coffee. And you know, imagine you're outside, you have a beautiful view, but instead of my garage here, and yeah, you can set up and brew coffee for a bunch of friends before you do, you know, a nice drive or anything like that. You can have a nice cup of coffee, or you can drive up to the mountains with your friends, do a nice little mountain run, and you can set up outside and brew coffee there. So that's kind of the entire idea with this, and I wanted to figure out just a setup that I could put specific in the Emira. I'm going to throw a clip in here where you'll be able to see how all of this stuff fits inside of the Emira. So this is how it all looks. So I've unlocked the trunk and I put everything in here. And this is just an example. Obviously, you can fit things differently and you don't need to use the crazy equipment I'm using, but in here, I got the kettle, got the carafes. You can use plastic carafes, scale for weighing stuff, some coffee. I think what would be fun would be just bringing some of those like plastic tasting cups so you can serve to a bunch of people, but that fits in kind of this little tote bag. And then in here is the battery bank. You know, I picked this one because it fits the weight limit here, because this says 50 kilograms. I don't know how true that is, but this is about 35. So that fits under here, because with this car, it has to fit underneath like that. The camping table will fit into here. So you see the camping table fits into here. You still have room for some foldable seats, like camping seats. This is like a 2-gallon jug, so because you obviously need water. And then this is actually what takes up a lot of space, which is this coffee grinder. And you definitely don't need to have, this is totally overkill. I brought it out for fun, but you know, I still have a bunch of other stuff like the license plate thing in there. This is fun. Those of you guys, I can't believe they still make these. Yeah, pretty much that's how it all works. It all kind of just fits into the trunk depending on how you want to fold things. And I still have all the space behind the 2 seats there as well. But a lot of your volume is definitely taken up with the battery, with the water. But you totally do have space for your, you know, you could put your table or your camping seat up there. Obviously, you guys can fit things differently. You don't need to use the level of equipment I'm using, but yeah, Lotus Emira, most practical vehicle of all time. Look at how much stuff you can fit in the trunk. All right, that is pretty much how I brew coffee anywhere with my Lotus Emira. And yeah, very fun. This is version 1 of this setup. I think eventually there'll be like more specific things on how to fit all the different components together. I haven't wanted to look at making any sort of custom inserts or anything like that because for those of you guys who know me from the coffee world, I rotate through a lot of different pieces of equipment. But for now, you know, this is version 1.0 of this coffee setup with my Emira. Hope that was fun. Thank you guys so much for spending time to watch this video. If you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, see you guys later. Thank you.